I'm Gemma, and this is a chat with Gemma. So, young ladies, do we value them enough in our society? I don't know that we do. So, I was at a shop last night, a large shop, and was talking to a couple of young ladies, and they were saying that they used to have a guard, because I was sort of complaining that they closed this particular, it's quite a large shop, they closed the back door at night. And I was sort of saying, when you're old and you've got a crook knee or whatever, and your car's over here, it's really annoying to have to walk all the way up here. And because during the day you can just get in that back door. And the young lady was saying to me that they get some incidents at night. And look, they've got young men there as well. And I said, well, hang on, you normally have, in these shops, because it's a franchise, you normally have security guards that are standing right there at the door. And they'd extended their hours, and the government had provided funding for them to have this security guard, which is apparently quite expensive. And maybe the franchise could have afforded that, I don't know. But so the government suddenly said nah and took away that fund. Talked about governments the previous time, didn't I? And what I think of governments. Anyway, I haven't really gone into it. Got plenty to say. But anyway, so they withdrew the funding. So to keep themselves safe, they closed this back door late at night. And I was just saying to them, we don't value our young ladies enough in society. We do not. They're not brought up well, and they kind of know about the world, but they kind of don't know about the world, I think. And so they get themselves into all kinds of trouble, and there's all kinds of trouble out there for them to get into. And why don't we regard our young ladies as, I'm sure God looks on them as a treasure given to us from above. And I remember reading this article. I'll tell the little story first, the horrible story. There was an evil man, and he was going about and he was sexually assaulting prostitutes and killing them. And sorry to bring the tone down. This is a true story in Melbourne. Anyway, so then he tracked down this woman he was following. They could see on cameras and things. He followed this woman who was not a prostitute at all. She was just a visitor from Ireland, I think it was. Pretty lady, just normal lady minding her own business, not a prostitute. He tracked her. Now, he was out of jail at the moment on, when they let them free for a while, bail, I think, and tracked her down and did the same thing to her. And so there was a big article in The Age. So for those who outside of Melbourne, we've got The Age, we've got the Herald Sun are the two papers. Then there's The Australian, which I don't know anybody ever buys. Anyway, I hope I don't insult people here, but the Herald Sun is a bit more low-key, shall we say, an easier read, maybe I could put it that way. And The Age is a bigger paper and it's much more intellectual. So in The Age, I remember reading there was this big, and I don't read the papers much, so there's this big article written by this, and it was written by a man, and good on him, and he was saying about how he didn't think that the police kind of were too terribly concerned when prostitutes were attacked and killed in this way. And the guy that had done these things was out on bail, And how does that happen? And free to go and murder somebody else, and this time not a prostitute. And he was saying about the man writing the article was saying about how there's a hierarchy, isn't there? Like I would tell you probably in certainly in my neck of the woods, I suppose it would be more highly regarded if a police officer was attacked, or if a politician was attacked. Here I go with one of my hot flushes. Or I don't know, somebody with probably a member of the building and construction industry, or power companies. I don't know, people who pull the strings, the puppet strings. You know what I'm talking about. And maybe a bit of money goes into a back pocket here. Not saying for sure, but saying I reckon. Anyway, just keep that amongst ourselves that I said that. Bribery and graft, there I said it. And so, yeah, and these prostitute women were probably hierarchically on the bottom of the pile. And then we had this poor woman who was the victim, if you like, of that apathy, and the man. So how does a man like that, who's attacking those people, get free to just walk around and do it again? And I'm sure other countries are worse than here. And I think Australia prides itself as being civilised. That doesn't mean it is. And that's a whole other story. So I think that young ladies, as they're growing up, should be given a lot more ammunition, and a lot more ammunition in the form of knowledge about how to protect themselves. And we, as a society, should step in. Yeah, mind your own business. We should not mind our own business. Well, it is our business, so we're minding our own business when we defend a woman from a bad man. We should step in and guard young ladies. And, I've had some incidents in my life, and I had one recently, actually, and I was in not a crowded place, but I was in a place where there were people. And in this case, I was trying to defend a woman, actually. And the guy was sort of getting right up like this in my face and everything, and telling me to mind my own business. And there were men around, but not one of them did a thing. I think one of the people behind the counter rang the police, but nobody said anything or did anything to defend me. Now, I'm an old lady. I'm not a young woman, but I was the only one stepping in and helping the young lady. But men, I think, they're pretty cowardly on the whole, and we have sort of movies portraying men as being these courageous creatures. Well, my experience of men in real life is that they're pretty gutless, pretty cowardly, and not really aware. So, I mean, a lot of these fellas didn't know what was even notice what was going on. So they kind of were just in their own little worlds, and probably purposely staying in their own little worlds. So why can't we be more protective of our young ladies? And yes, you young ladies, if you're a young lady yourself, please go out and just learn karate or self-defense or something. Do some sort of course, and at least give yourself a chance, to defend yourself. And don't just trust any man that you've just met. Don't trust any man even that you've known for a while. Really test people out and protect yourself. You're treasure to the world. You're a gift to the world. And I would love it if you would see yourself as that as well. I think a lot of young ladies, the way they talk, the way they dress, you can just see their attitudes towards themselves. The self-love is not there. The self-respect is not there. But you're meant to be a gift to the world, a wonderful, beautiful gift. Please see yourself that way. Please take yourself as something that should be looked after. You know, there's a woman in my general area who's very skinny, wanders around. She's pretty racist, telling, I don't know, people with a bit of a suntan they should go back where they came from. You know, completely mad out, crazy out of her mind. And she's been round for a while. Obviously, no police or anybody has taken care of her. She's probably, well, she might be just, you know, schizophrenic or something, I don't know, but I'm assuming she's used drugs and she's addled her brain. So you can do that using drugs once, ladies, just the one time. And there are people who are in places that, you know. But so she's not being looked after, cared for properly. She's not in a place, you know, some sort of institution, being fed, obviously, regularly housed from the rain and the cold and the heat and those things. And look, it happens to men as well. I don't mean that it only happens to women. But you young ladies, you have to be very careful who you spend your time with. Treat yourself as a delicate, you know, flower that you've got to feed and water and take great care of. You're important to the world. You should be important to yourself. You're important to God. Be important to yourself. All right, I'll stop there. God bless. Look after yourself. Bye for now.